Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome to our tutorials from zero to hero, mastering Autodesk Inventor. We are in tutorial 1, caster wheel project, and in this video we'll discuss assembly constraints, degrees of freedom. In any free part in space, X, Y, and Z, 3D space has 6 degrees of freedom. 3 translation along X, Y, and Z, and 3 rotation around X, around Y, and around Z. Inventor shows our degree of freedom sign here. We can see it. Okay. If we have green Z, which means our part can translate along Z. Okay. Green X, which means that our part can translate along X. And the same way for the Y-axis, it can translate around Y. And we have 3 rotation around Z, around X, and around Y. So this object is free in space. Okay. A combination of these degrees of freedom gives an object a complex movement that we see usually in our life. Let us see this in video. And we go here. Okay, and you can see now translation along X. This is translation along X and translation along Y. And this is translation along Z. Next, we'll see the rotation. Okay. Here around X. Of course, clockwise or counterclockwise, the same. And here we have rotation around Y. And at the end, we will see the rotation around Z. So this is what we call degrees of freedom. If we go to our inventor, okay, and here we something we called constrain. Constraining something, which means preventing it from move. In other words, we are stopping, okay, degrees of freedom. This is our constraints here in assembly environment. This is our constraints, and we have assembly constraints, mate constraint. When we apply a mate constraint, okay, you can mate faces in the opposite or flush in the same direction. Opposite direction faces in the same direction. That mate constraint can mate axis with axis. Of course, we are talking about part with part. In order to create this assembly, you have to assemble these parts together to give the device, okay, to make the device work. And we'll see this in next videos. I'm just explaining here that we have assembly constraint, mate constraint, angle constraint. You can create a constraint at angle. Okay, we have here tangent constraint and insert constraint. Okay, we'll come to these constraints when we are assembling our parts, and you'll see. Okay, in order to show the degrees of freedom of any part, you have to view and click the degrees of freedom from visibility. I can switch it on or switch it off. Okay. What do you think if I make this part grounded? Right click and make it grounded. How many degrees of freedom of the grounded object? Let us see. Degrees of freedom. Nothing. Zero, of course. We're preventing it from moving along X, along Y, and along Z. It can't move, and it can't rotate around X, around Y, around Z, because it's grounded. There is no movement. Can you see? Grounded. And with the grounded object, we have this pen. Can you see? And here we have this pen on the part. If I take out grounded, click, now my part is free to move and rotate in the 3D space. This is a quick explanation of degrees of freedom and constraints. See you next video to assemble our parts. Bye bye.